Hi again, everybody. Back for day 2 of our super fun e-learning stuff. We're going to continue working with the rational zero test or rational root theorem today. So yesterday, what did we learn? As a quick reminder, we went ahead and stated all the possible rational zeros for a given polynomial. And how did we do that? Remember, we took the factors of the first term and the last term. And so it was, as stated here in the second line. Again, I don't have a stylus, so bear with me. We take the factors of the last term, which is normally denoted as p, and divide them all by the factors of the first term, which is just called q. And that's how we come up with all the possible rational roots. So today we're actually going to test some and see, can we find some of these rational roots? Instead of just listing all the possible ones, we're going to find the exact ones. And so here's how we're going to do this. First off, as a quick reminder, let's list the possible rational roots for this given polynomial. So we have x to the third minus 5x to the second plus 2x plus 8. And again, we don't care about the two middle terms. We only care about the first term and the last term. So here's our p, denoted here in blue. Here's our q, denoted here in green. So we ask ourselves, what are all the factors of p? So the possible rational roots are PRR. Remember, I'm abbreviating that. We take what are the factors of 8 here, and it'll be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, and plus or minus 4, and now finally plus or minus 8. That'll be all over what are the factors of 1. That's the easy one. We love ones with this, plus or minus 1. So that's what we did yesterday. So from this, what we're going to do is actually pick some of these numbers and see, can we factor this any further? And how are we going to do that? We're going to use synthetic division. We're going to pick one of these numbers at random and test, is it a possible rational root? So what I'm going to give you today is cubic polynomials. All we're going to need to do is try to get this down to a quadratic, and then we know how to work with quadratics. I'll explain the homework a little more in depth when we get there. So if we take a look at this chart up here, everything is that we developed with our plus or minus for our possible rational roots. We're just going to pick one of the numbers. Now I know what they are, so because I've worked this problem out, but in general, a good place to start is with small numbers. So I like trying 1 first. So I'm going to try 1. And how did I come up with 1? Well, in this instance, I took our plus 1 and divided it by plus 1. So that came from, we have a plus 1 on top and a plus 1 on bottom, hence plus 1. So what was our polynomial? Well, we had 1x to the third. So remember synthetic division, we just take the coefficients. So 1x to the third, maybe I'll put it in orange here, minus 5. So I'll take our minus 5 here, plus 2, and then plus, yes, that is a plus 8. Now I'll draw the line, drop our first number down, and now we start multiplying. So what's 1 times 1? So 1 times 1 is just 1. What's negative 5 plus 1? Negative 4. What's 1 times negative 4? Well, that's just negative 4. What's positive 2 minus 4? Well, that's going to be negative 2. And then what's 1 times negative 2? Well, that's negative 2. What's 8 minus 2? That is 6. So we're done with our synthetic division. So here's what we need to check. The last number here you're checking, is this 0? So you ask yourself, is this the number 0? And here you can easily tell, no, this is not 0. It's a 6. So that means that this plus 1 up here, that's not a rational root. It needs to be 0. When it's 0, that means it's a factor. So that's what we're testing. We're going to go through, do some synthetic division, and see which one can we get to be 0. So it's not plus 1. So I'll move on to minus 1, because minus 1 is another good one to check, because it's another small number. Work with small numbers first. So this could be a plus 1 over minus 1. So I'm just taking that root. So when you're testing these, don't erase. There's no reason to erase. This shows me that you're testing. This shows me that you're actually working and doing the things. So no need to erase. So now just up over here, I'm going to go ahead and do synthetic division, but with minus 1. So the exact same process we just did, but instead of putting 1 in the box, we'll put minus 1 in the box. What were the coefficients? 1, negative 5, 2, and 8. Draw our line. Drop the 1, and here we go. What's negative 1 times positive 1? Negative 1. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. What's negative 1 times negative 6? Positive 6. What's 2 plus 6? It's 8. And then last, what's negative 1 times positive 8? It's negative 8. What's 8 minus 8? 0. And here we get what we want. This is a 0. So negative 1 works. We care that it's 0 here. So that means negative 1 is a factor. Underline it for emphasis. And we know what to do with synthetic division here. This right here becomes our new x squared term. This becomes our new x term. And this becomes our new constant term. Not one term. Our new constant. So since we just found that negative 1 is a factor, we'll go over here and rewrite x minus 1. So you just put x and minus or plus whatever number you had. It's minus because it was a negative 1 here. And then what did we get over here? 1x squared minus 6x plus 8. So this is what we just factored, and now we'd work to factor this. And so here you don't need to use the rational root test. This is a quadratic. We have a variety of methods to factor quadratics. Are there two numbers that multiply to be positive 8 and add to be negative 6? There actually are. So you could just factor this to be x minus 2 and x minus 4. Oh, excuse me, I just made a mistake. We need to actually, since we did synthetic division, flip the sign here. I'm sorry. So flip sign again. But here's what I want you to tell me today. this right here, tell me what's a factor. So let's do a couple examples that'll be just like your homework. So here on your homework, I'm going to have you list the possible rational roots, and I want you to find the rational root that works. I've made it so that you have 4 problems. Get my hand in the frame. 4 problems, and there's only one possible rational root. So you only have to find one. You won't have to factor the quadratic today. So let's see a couple examples of what that is like. So we have x to the third minus 8x minus 3. So first off, on your homework, I'll ask, what are the possible rational roots? So remember, we'll have plus or minus all the factors of 3. So plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 3 over what are the factors of 1, just plus or minus 1. So we would have these numbers to test. And again, I've worked it out so I know what it is. So you would test 1, -1, 3, -3, right? And I've told you only one of those works. So the number that I found worked was 3. So let's go ahead and see why. So when we do synthetic division, remember, we have a 1 on our coefficient here, for our coefficient, excuse me. Do we have an x squared term? No. So this is when we put the 0 in. We have an x to the first right here, so I put a -8. And then we have a -3, so I'll put a -3. So let's go to work. Drop the 1 down here. What's 3 times 1? 3. What's 0 plus 3? 3. What's 3 times 3? 9. What's -8 plus 9? It's 1. What's 1 times 3? 3. What's -3 plus 3? 0. This is what you're looking for today. I've told you only one works, so what I would expect to see from your homework here is you say something like 3 is the rational root. That's all we need to do today. And of course, you're not going to know which one it is at the start. I didn't know which one it was until I sat down and worked it out. And that's how I figured out it was 3. So this is what I would expect to see on your homework today. And again, if you mess up or if you test one and it doesn't work, you don't have to go through and erase it. Just leave the work, move on, do the next one. We aren't always going to know how it's going to work, which one is going to work. So let's do one more together. As always, feel free to contact me because this can get very confusing very fast, which is why I'm trying to break it down over a couple days, give you plenty of time to ask questions if you need it. So minus 21x. So the next one we're going to do is 3x to the third plus 5x to the second minus 21x minus 2. So again, first off, what are the possible rational roots? So take all the factors of 2, so that's plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, all over what are the factors of 3. So that's plus or minus 1, plus or minus 3. So here we could possibly get a fraction. There's not going to be any fractions for you to do on your homework. Only work with whole numbers. I'm not trying to confuse you. Just do the whole numbers here. So the only numbers we're going to need to test would be 1, -1, 2, and -2. Because then we get 1 over 3, negative 1 over 3, 2 over 3, and negative 2 over 3. And I don't want to make you work with fractions in this because that can get confusing very fast. Just work with the whole numbers. So again, I know what it is because I sat down and worked this out. So in this instance, I'm going to choose 2. So I go down, do my synthetic division. Here's 2. What were the coefficients? 3, 5, negative 21, negative 2. So 3, 5, negative 21, negative 2. Now let's go to work with synthetic division. So drop the 3. What's 2 times 3? 6. 5 plus 6 is 11. What's 2 times 11? 22. Negative 21 plus 22 is 1. What's 2 times 1? It's 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. And again, the 0 is what we're looking for. So I would say something like 2 is the rational root. Is the, if you wanted to abbreviate it, because I abbreviate it to RR, that is fine. But I would expect to see something like this. So, as I was saying earlier, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. This can get confusing very fast. You're going to need to list the roots like we did yesterday. And then today you're going to be testing some of them. Only one of them will work on your homework. And it will not be a fraction. So this is what I would expect to see, something like this. So, I hope you all stay warm. If you have any questions, please contact me. With all that, that's all I've got for you today. You have 4 problems on your homework. So have a great rest of your day, and we will see you when the weather lets us. Bye, guys.